My name's Graeme Doyle. I'm an artist, poet, performer, musician, jack of all masters, trade of nuns. I also have serious mental illness. I had a beautiful crack up at Swinburne Technical College in 1965. It changed my life forever, but I had a deep love of art and writing, and later took up guitar, and so that's what I do. I'm an artist, and I really enjoy that. I don't much enjoy suffering. I have a deep love of colour, being always looking at the great colourists in art history, and particularly the post-impressionists like Van Gogh and Paul Cézanne and the other post-impressionists and the impressionists, of course, and of course down to the Australian expressionists, Boyd and Nolan and Tucker. There's such a great degree of colour. I love colour because it's to do with light. That is, it informs things. It focuses on things and shows. Without light you can't see anything. With light it shows what it is. These days I've been working with a lot of drawings. They're rather dark. At worst, at best or worst, they're very, very disturbing. Some people find them very disturbing, and I'm disturbed. And I draw like this to sort of exercise the demons that are in me, and somehow, so I use black and white and limited colour and very intense drawing technique. And I also make prints and develop the drawing via printmaking, digital laser copying. I do a drawing, print it, and work over that. Sometimes get a scan of it. So I've been working very intensely over the years, as much as my health and body will stand. And they take years and years, some of them, many years. That you admired the horse, that was, I worked on that for 30 years. So I mean, it's not sort of dropped onto the canvas out of the backside of a seagull, you know. It was kind of a constant hard work. My childhood, well, that's, I was brought up in Northcote. My father was a tinsmith. Growing up in the 50s, well, it was pretty boring in the 50s, I thought. Humdrum life was rather boring for me. And because I'm very sensitive and highly tuned, so Northcote was not the place for me to be growing up. But I had wonderful parents, and they family, and they were a great help to me. Discovered when I was 11 that I had an interest in art. Mum put up on the wall these two little landscapes that I did, and that started me as an 11-year-old. Before that I used to copy comics, and I tried to write poetry about 10, and then 11 I tried to write, and of course by the time I was 19 I developed quite a powerful inclination for art. I couldn't do anything else, couldn't do my schooling because I was interested so much in art. It was really inside me like a monster waiting to break out through my chest and onto the canvas or page.
Have you ever looked into the eyes of a cat? Lurking green devils are there. I've seen fear, content and bold disdain, but never love anywhere. Have you ever looked at the work of a cat? Sinewy grace of quiet and ease, the stealth to kill with the devil's skill, at scent of his prey on the breeze. Have you ever felt from the claw of a cat a tear the thickness of steel? His devil's way is playing with prey, compassion the cat does not feel. Have you heard the cry of a cat, its meaning so fearfully clear? The sound is swell from the bowels of hell, igniting all terrors and fear.
I had this impelling drive to do art and poetry. I had this compelling drive and couldn't function at anything else. Sometimes you've got to amuse yourself in life, don't you? You have to find, some people might go to a computer game, and I do spoonerisms and puns and mess up words. I suppose my sense of humour, it's really, my sense of humour, changing words around. I use different names in my artwork, and I do it to amuse myself. It's supposed to be some sort of joke, but to me there's a certain amount of depth to it, because You break up the concept into, and it ends up with other concepts within it, like paw, try it, P-A-W, P-A-W, or P-A-W, P-O-O-R. So, and trites instead of traits. I used to call schizophrenia schizococcageliacals, and we were normalated, then put on the pensionelia. Oh, just my fertile imagination. The loose kangaroos. Oh, that was fun. Sandy Jeffs, Jeff Prince, firstly Michael Crane and then Robin Doyle. Oh, that was fun. Well, 4 performance poets. And there's a lot of humour involved with the work. We had mental illness. In a way, we were activists, but Sandy said, we're lunatics. We're professional lunatics. We make a living out of being lunatics. Oh, that was interesting. I regard myself as now a cider artist, a mentally ill artist. That's how I see myself. Because within that, I've got a tremendous amount of freedom. I'm not locked into some style or, it all looks like my work, but I'm not locked into some style. Because I've had an income, I don't have to do pot boilers. I don't want to do pot boilers. My art's very personal and almost sacred to me, so I don't want to prostitute it. Of course, that's why I'm broke as far as money goes from art. I have a little bit of cash that sees me through, but yeah, it's not something I want to damage in any way, my art. If a good exhibition, I try to allow myself to enjoy it. I try very hard to allow myself to enjoy the accomplishment. It's not easy with your own work, of course. At the Cunningham Dax Gallery, I felt I belonged there. I thought the artwork on display was wonderful, and it was such an opportunity for me to be included. I've hardly ever had a studio. I built with friends a studio in my father's factory, which was, he stopped working in his business and he emptied it out incredibly. The way he did that, a one-legged old man, these huge presses that he removed from the factory, and then we lined it, and it was now my studio. But I rarely had a studio because poverty dictates a lot of my life, has done. Maybe not now so much, but in the early days there wasn't a quid to be found. There was not a quid to be seen. So I used to work wherever I was. I work on my bed. I might lay down on my tummy and start drawing into my little pads, drawing and writing. Oh, I love art. I mean, I like it. I just, it's my life. It's a big part of my life. I've always done it, so how can I, it's like a wife you really love. You both might be 80, but you still love your wife. You're devoted to each other. It's a bit like that with art. It's fundamental to my life. It's, when fundamental, you're a fundamental person. Well, I've been funded by art as well as being given a pension. These are not anti-drug trips. That is, I'm not off medication and doing these mad works. If I wasn't properly medicated, I don't think I'll be able to do them. You have to be fairly stable and fairly normal to do it. I like to be in control of my life. I like to be a nice person, a good person, and not be a raving lunatic. I don't know if you can live in this world without a measure of courage, do you? You can't. You need courage to live, don't you, really? It's a very challenging time, very challenging times we live in. You need some guts. My grandmother told my auntie, told her children, that put your backbone where your wishbone would be. I refused to have my life taken off me. I was about 26 years of age, 25, 26, and I said, I'm going to live a full life. I'm going to live a full life or no life at all. My life is my faith, my friends, and my work. That's my life.
So what's so crazy about that? And if you did hide a sausage under your hat, as I ask you honestly, as a lunatic spat, what's so crazy about that? I mean, what's so crazy about that?
I met him at Phillip Institute in Bandura in 1983. Had gotten into the fine arts course there, and I remember Peter because he seemed like a really good bloke. He was a decent, good bloke, and we didn't become close friends then exactly, but then Peter had a studio in a church, an abandoned church. Satan had left, and he did started another portrait, which again he didn't finish. But that started the thought, well, he'd come down to my place and he'd paint a portrait of me. And we were friends. We were becoming close friends through this meeting and him painting me. And it was very exciting, very interesting, and very enjoyable. Very enjoyable. So, because he's such a good bloke that we just got on very well. Peter's had a license to kill from the start. That is, I've said to him, look, paint me any way you like. Paint me. Get to the nitty gritty of things. You know, that's been my attitude, and he's been able to do that, and with a vengeance, and that's great. I mean, we're both artists. I don't want to be flattered. In this, I don't need to be flattered. I love the bare, bald, psychotic truth to be spoken through Peter's images, and I mean, I know I'm not always insane, or maybe I'm rarely insane these days, but that's an element of my life, and what insanity means too. It's not just being off your head, or having a diagnosis. It's emotions and your thoughts, streams of ideas, and it means a lot. It can mean a lot. My world of madness. I mean, I want him to describe the inner Graeme, and he does that magnificently. He has the talent to honour me like that, which might seem funny to say, but he's honouring me really. And he's saying, you know, you're good enough to paint, Graeme. You're a picture after all. Oh, he's a great friend. He's very generous, very likeable. He's easy to get on with. I mean, to have a close friend with someone who's so gifted in their field, and be down to earth, that you can actually get on. We get on very well together. That's why they've been part of the reason that these have been done, because we just get on. Otherwise, we couldn't connect all those times in the sittings. If we weren't close friends, couldn't do it. So the financial advisor, financial manager,
he was fantastic.
He says, we've looked after your money so well, you haven't got any left. That's so true.
That's right, yeah.
Fees.
I haven't seen that character.
Our chemistry together as friends is fundamental to the creation of these images. The insight that he's had into my condition. He mightn't be able to verbalise it. I mightn't be able to, but he's certainly painted and drawn and etched it in a remarkable way. And I think it may be unique in Australian art. Actually thought of one title, and he wanted it this particular way, Black Dog, talking about, he did a painting of me. Of course, Black Dog is depression. I think we've known each other for a long time now, and through these portraits Peter's been doing of me, we've become very close friends. He's been very patient with me too. He doesn't, some people can think, oh, he's a nutcase, I think I'll heal him. I think I'll fix him up. When I'm finished with him, he'll snap out of it. He'll pull himself together, you know. He hasn't treated me like that. He's treated me with respect and dignity. Our associations benefit us both enormously, but I mean, to have him win the Moran Prize and to go up there, and it was amazing, an amazing experience. I think our collaboration is not a forced thing. It's kind of just developed through our friendship. I don't think I've had a breakdown since these portraits were began. I've come pretty close, but the modern medications plus my lifestyle. I'm a Jehovah's Witness, and I try to learn to have a balanced life because of application of scriptural principles, which are very practical. I find being mentally ill is so destructive. It's so destructive. It's the worst thing that happened to anybody or anybody else. So often the family and the friends have to bear a great deal of stress when someone close to them becomes severely mentally ill. It's something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. It's not so prevalent now, my feeling of being alienated out, being an outsider as a person. But see, I almost have the view I'm from another planet. Sometimes when I'm not very well, I think, I was, come from here, I want to go back. Bring back that asteroid, please, I want to go back home. The teacher at school taught us about puns and taught us about spoonerisms, about the Reverend W. Spooner. And I just fixed onto this, and I made a little spoonerism for come back was bum cack, which is a typical high school student. And I just, riding a well-boiled icicle instead of a well-oiled bicycle, and a smart fella, a fart smeller, mum and dad, dumb and mad. And I made that up in the back of my mind before I actually knew what it was. I changed the letters around. When it came out, I thought, that's mum and dad, dumb and mad. Well, I'm proud of that one. I think as I get older, you tend to worry less about what people think, or you sort of live your own life, whatever it is. If you're eccentric or normal or a public servant, you live the way that's natural for you to live. And I love words. I've tried to learn about words. I love writing. I mean, I believe I can write. Others can believe. They may think my writing's better than my art, or just as bad as my art. I was in hospital in St Vincent's the last time, and they practice behaviour modification on you, which is good. And they mentioned my word salad, the puns and the spoonerisms. And I could hear from that, I think I better stop that, because they commented, a nurse, that they knew I could hear. And so I thought, well, maybe that's not appropriate to use in this environment, and I stopped it. And, in public, like in the hospital. So maybe sometimes I'm not as well as at other times, obviously. But you don't know where the madness ends and the normalcy begins, or vice versa. You don't know that. I've had some very dark times, believe me. I've had some very dark times. I remember in Larundel once, I was very, very unwell. I was walking on a footpath and I felt like death cooled down. I was in a shocking state, and the footpath in front of me started smoking, and a voice came to me and said, "Don't go any further." And I turned back from that point and tried to just edge back from that pit that just opened up in front of me. And it's like saying, just don't go down that path at this stage. And I remember in Mont Park, I was in a single room, and this scream just rushed out of my mouth, and another one was just about to build up and do the same. Felt like water in a room. I've had some terrible times. It was awful. They were bad days, really bad days. But I have a very happy life. I'm very happy. I've got a great life. Without him saying it verbally, Pete's got tremendous insight into my life and condition. So I'm excited. I live my life every day with something to look forward to.
I remember meeting Graeme in 1983, and we were at Phillip Institute together, and we did a bachelor degree in fine arts. And in fact, I remember the first time I saw Graeme, and he was walking. We had an auditorium where we'd all meet, and Graeme was walking up the stairs with a white plastic bag. And I just remember this image of Graeme walking up the stairs, white plastic bag, which I found out later, in fact, was rice and sultanas. It was his lunch. So that's my first image of Graeme. I did a postgraduate degree, and Graeme and I did it together. But even during that time, I think I did a few paintings of Graeme without realising that something would develop. But I think he had a great character then. He was a pretty sparky sort of person, and he's always had a good sense of humour. That's what I really liked about Graeme. I think the first painting, and I looked in my studio recently, I think it was about 1984 or 85. I did a large painting of Graeme in my studio I had in a little cottage around the corner from here. Look, I've got etchings, I've got drawings, I've got paintings, I've got... look, it'd probably be well over 100, maybe 150. To be honest, I haven't counted. There's this little evolution of how Graeme is looking and feeling, and at the moment, at the day, at the time. I mean, every time Graeme comes, even though I'm painting Graeme again and again and again, for me the challenge is to produce a really good painting on one level. And that level is that my own work is trying to develop. And then when I see Graeme, his mood changes so much. Some days he's really well, and other days he's on another level. And so the face is always changing. For me, the face is always changing. Actually, I feel in a way so privileged that Graeme would be able to sit for me like this, because to be honest, not many of my friends will. There's that sense that you, and that friendship, how does it develop? I think I've known Graeme since 1983, so we've done a lot together. I think there's a certain trust in also not only asking Graeme to sit in poses, but the way he thinks, and we both think that maybe how it'll turn out. Mm. He made a comment recently. He said to me, "It's like a project." And I never thought of that, actually. The whole thing about painting Graeme over and over and over and over again is in fact like a project. It's just like a documentation of someone and what's happening in their life and at the time. Because I've looked back at the early paintings, and they're quite different than the ones I'm doing now. And even the pathos is different. The pathos has changed a lot. These paintings have a lot more pathos in them. And in fact, I think it is, and Graeme won't mind me saying this, but I think his health's deteriorating, and I think some of that comes out in the paintings. He can't help it if I'm painting what I see. It's about a collaboration. And the titles actually are a collaboration as well. Because Graeme, I just remember coming back, taking Graeme back to Fitzroy one day, and I said, "Graeme, what are we going to call that large painting which is in the Moran Prize?" I said, "There's a lot of," I said to him, you look like you're completely gutted in a way. And we toyed up that idea of how a title will fit and lock in to the painting itself. And I think I came up with Wounded Poet. I said, I said, you're a poet. Wounded is a reference to his mental illness, and that's how it happened. The paintings have to stand up on their own basis. And when there's a sublime reference to what's happening at the back of all that, but the paintings have to work as an image by themselves. And so that's how the Wounded Poet came about. And the other one's The Sufferer. I think it is again a reference to what's happening in Graeme's life. So that's how the image is. Black Dog is obviously a reference to Churchill's comment on depression, Winston Churchill's comment on depression. So that's how that one came about as well. It sounds like they're all so much pathos in the titles, but all of them aren't. They're not always titled that way. But there's some optimism in a lot of the paintings, and a lot of the paintings actually have a lot of optimism in them. So, I mean, you only have to take a photo of Graeme, and I've got a friend who takes lots of photos while we're painting. And if you flick through them, there's Graeme laughing, there's Graeme telling jokes, there's Graeme being the other persona of Graeme. This is perhaps just another part of him. But that whole idea of winning the Moran and Graeme being part of it, because I wanted Graeme to be there, obviously to be there, because he's such a larger-than-life character. And to experience all those things, because to be honest, the Moran Prize is as much to do with Graeme as it was with me. I just painted it. He sat there and was really that whole ethos of Graeme sitting down and painting it. The dialect in the studio is fantastic. I really enjoy Graeme's company. And so it's like a, how will I say, it's, I mean, friendships develop for reasons unknown, but, and to put a reason why they develop is like taking the myth away, it's like taking part of it away, but I think I've learnt more from Graeme than he's learnt from me. I have learnt so much from him, and he's so widely read. I can't believe how widely read he is. If I mention Sylvia Plath, he'll almost tell me one of her poems, or so there's that other side of Graeme, which is amazing. He's a hidden treasure, and I don't think many people realise how much is in there. I'm just so lucky to have met Graeme, and he's given me such an insight to schizophrenia as an illness. He's got a fantastic personality, and we laugh a lot in the studio. I think you might have mentioned, you called it, is it highly commended or a dishonourable mention? That's right.
Oh, yes.
I didn't realise actually that he had schizophrenia. And I mean, I didn't even know what schizophrenia was, to be honest. And I think in a nice way, by my friendship with Graeme, I've started to understand a little bit of what schizophrenia is. I didn't want to use Graeme's schizophrenia as the basis to my paintings, because that's like saying I'm going to paint a diabetic, or I'm going to paint someone who's an amputee. I've heard so many people say to me now, oh, my brother's got schizophrenia and I didn't know, or my sister's got schizophrenia, I didn't know. A lot of people have come up to me and said, I know someone who's got schizophrenia. And in an odd sort of way, the paintings have sort of addressed what is part of the an unknown profile of a lot of people who've got schizophrenia. I think it has, actually, but the main thing, it was never intended to. That's just happened. The more known about the disease, the more people could understand it.